He's a veteran travel journalist and considered the go-to expert on the cruise industry. Not a bad reference there, David. Welcome to the show. First, I'd be remiss not to ask you about this new HBO documentary out, The Last Cruise. It really paints a pretty dark picture of the early days of COVID on a cruise liner. 2020 was clearly a tough year for cruise lines. I imagine this documentary isn't really helping.
Well, let's just say that the Diamond Princess was really the poster child for the virus in the cruise industry, unfortunately. And that was very early in the pandemic. There was a lot we didn't know then, including that that aerosols played such a big part in transmission. So we're a lot wiser now. The industry is a lot wiser now, and they're going to put policies and procedures into place to make sure that they get it right this time, because they have to.
I want to get into the policies in just 1 second, the changes, but one of the workers on the cruise ship in that documentary suggests that the wealthy were being taken care of and the workers weren't. The cruise industry relies on laborers. Many of them are Southeast Asians. Did COVID highlight these vulnerabilities, and has that had any impact on those willing to work in the service side of the industry?
Actually, I don't think so. I've been on a lot of cruises, and I've talked to a lot of crew independently, and they're all happy to have the jobs. They're all making more money than they could and sending back remittances to their home countries. So from what I hear from people in the industry, they want to get back to work, and the cruise lines are staying in touch with them. Some cruise lines have crew from 50 different countries, and so they're trying to stay in touch with all of them, make sure they're ready to come back when they're ready to restart the business. But there were obviously mistakes made on Diamond Princess, and everyone knows that. But in general, I think that the industry takes good care of their crew because it's in their interest. A happy crew makes for a better cruise. The passengers see that. And so I think crew is eager to come back as soon as they can.
No doubt the cruise industry is eager to sail. Talk about some of the safety precautions that ships are putting in place and the controversy over the so-called vaccination passports.
So, a couple of months ago, the conversation was all revolving around testing. That was going to be primary to bring cruises back, and everything else was secondary. Now vaccines have returned, and vaccines have become the primary mode of travel. And so I think we're going to need a vaccine passport to travel internationally. Obviously, you touched on that previously. But the cruise lines know that they want to give their passengers confidence to get back aboard their ships. And in order to do that, some of them are starting to implement vaccine mandates, not only for all adult passengers, but for all crew. And their surveys they're getting back from their guests is that the guests are happy to see this because it gives guests the confidence to want to get back aboard. So yes, while it may be kind of controversial to mandate a vaccine for guests, I think most guests are going to feel more secure about getting back aboard the ships because of that.
Do you have a sense of the numbers of passengers, especially older cruisers, who are ready to head back out?
So there's kind of a fascinating dynamic going on right now in the industry. Travel agents and cruise lines are reporting that forward bookings into 2022 and 2023 are incredibly strong. And the cruises that were just announced for the back half of 2021 are already filling up. So these are a lot of boomers who are going to be traveling in the next couple of years. They've got the money, they've got the time, they're vaccinated, so they're ready to go as soon as it's safe for them to go. And it looks like by the second half of this year, as cruises start up, mostly outside the U.S. right now, they're going to make up a bulk of the first passengers to sail.
That could, of course, in part reflect some of the eagerness that many people have to travel after a year. There was a federal bailout for airlines. What about cruise liners?
So most of the cruise companies, their ships are not registered in the U.S., so they weren't eligible for federal aid. Their shoreside employees, of course, were taken care of through the various relief plans and stimulus packages. But crew are all back in their home countries, getting whatever care and relief they can from those countries. So while the cruise ships are registered outside the U.S., and because the companies weren't eligible for federal aid, the three largest cruise companies were actually able to raise enough funding in the private markets to sustain their operations for more than a year with zero operational revenue. So they're okay financially. They can't last that way much longer, obviously, without revenue coming in, but they're certainly eager to get started.
Have you booked your next cruise, David?
No, I haven't yet. I'm waiting. I'm choosing between a couple of them starting up this summer in the Caribbean. I'm not sure which one I'll be on first.
But you feel comfortable going on one?
I will. I will. So I'm fully vaccinated, and especially the ones that mandate a vaccine, I think is a safe way to go. And I think with herd mass vaccination becoming a reality, especially in the U.S., it's going to be a requirement for travel internationally, and by definition, that includes cruises.